about this, steady AI takeover that is replacing a lot of human jobs, obviously. People that I know, in fact, my ex-wife said that it's replaced a lot of her work that she used to do, whether it be graphic design or writing. Now, I've capitalized on that because it's opened up new opportunities for me, but other people feel displaced. It will take over driving. I know a lot of people who've done Uber. My cousin drives a bus. Those jobs will be taken over by AI. This is a lot like in the 1800s when they invented the cotton gin, and it replaced a lot of manual labor. Now, on one side of things, it replaced a lot of manual labor. That's bad in some ways and good in others. A lot of that manual labor was slave labor. So it, de-incentivized slavery by making the work more efficient with using a machine. Same with very grueling, laborious industrial jobs, factory jobs in the turn of the 20th century. And a lot of machinery, hydraulic systems, and a lot of other systems came into the industrial workforce, and it replaced a lot of very grueling, laborsome jobs, low-pay jobs even, that people did because they needed to feed their family. And then in place, it gave a lot of technical jobs, a lot of maintenance jobs, a lot of engineering jobs. And so, where some people were displaced, other people were empowered. And, it took away very laborious and even terrible jobs, and it created new, more intellectual or thinking jobs, that are less laborious and more intellectual or whatever, that are just easier to do, easier, maybe not on the brain, but on the body. And, I know how that goes. As someone who's worked in the field my entire life, whether it was doing manual labor with my father and his construction company when I was a child, or whether it was installing cameras and losing my finger, or whether it was doing robotics engineering. I got an on-the-job injury doing that gave me 42 fractures. But I've always been in the field. I've always been somebody to do labor, but also on the side, I've always done website design, data work, and then automated workflows. I've done automated workflows since long before ChatGPT even was a thing. I used, now why can't I even think of the platform that I used, but Libertarian and a couple of others that were like GUI interfaces to build workflows, and Jarvie, and there's so many others that I used that helped me automate menial tasks, data entry tasks, things that were repetitive and non-intellectual, non-creative, stimulating, and just headaches. And so instead of sitting and creating social media posts for every blog that I wrote, just summarizing it and then piecing together some SEO and a graphic, I just automated that task long before a lot of people knew even automation like that existed. I was using Libertarian and others to do that. And so I just, where other people see this, horrible, takeover of AI, I see opportunity. And, nobody, is mourning the loss of bookstores. I don't hear the same people complaining about AI, complaining about, bookstores being taken over by Amazon. I see them ordering books off Amazon, getting it cheaper and faster, not having to go all the way across town and, shop for, this and that. And, they just get it in the mail now. And I don't see, the local truck driver or taxi driver being mourned because of delivery services or taxi services like Uber. One person who would complain about AI, my ex-wife, helped at least displace high-paid taxi drivers, that cost a lot more than Uber, and that takes a special license and all this. And then, people that do Uber can just slip into that industry, do it for cheaper, undermine the taxi drivers, and take their job. This is just how the course of things go. Now, am I a little concerned about my kids' future in what this AI world will look like? Yes, I'm absolutely concerned. I actually went to Japan in 2019 to talk about AI ethics and, how our behavior affects the development of AI, because we are teaching AI. So I went to Osaka in 2019. I flew to Japan and spent a couple of weeks there. And I wasn't like a keynote speaker, but I did speak at this event, and I asked some good questions about the morals and ethics of humanity influencing AI. Things like, humans being disposable. Some 800,000 humans are sacrificed in the United States alone every year for abortion. Innocent. They've never done anything to anybody. The most vulnerable among us are just destroyed for convenience purposes mostly. 96%, I think, or 95% of all abortions have nothing to do with the threat to the health of the mother. It's just about convenience. And so I just, basically my point was, if we treat things, humanity, like, if it's inconvenient, dispose of it, get rid of it if it's inconvenient. What is that going to be to AI? Elon Musk gave this example of the anthill and, a road being made, a human-made road, and there's an anthill in the way, and they just fucking pave over it. All the ants die. They don't hate the ants. There's nothing against the ants. They're not, angry with the ants. It's just the ants are in the way, and they pave over them. So there is that aspect I worry about. So humanity's behavior is going to reflect in this AI revolution, and AI will mimic our behavior. We're basically the parents of AI. They will be smarter, faster, stronger, more capable, resistant to heat and weather and damage. They won't need to eat or sleep. I mean, it's definitely a new world coming, so I do worry about my kids. I want them to be prepared for this. Maybe they need to think about, doing what they love to do. I love to write. I've always wrote. I've always done social media before you could even monetize it. Back in the 90s, I was on bulletin board systems. There was no possible way to monetize it, yet I wrote on social media all the time on bulletin board systems. I still love to do that. That's a passion of mine. But I found a way to monetize it through AI. So I'm hoping my kids see that as an opportunity, not as an obstacle or some offense. So I want them to prepare. So learn what you love, do what you love, but also learn AI. That's my recommendation to everybody.